Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right.
Welcome to another daily writing sprint stream as we are going to make some progress with our stories. I'm working on The Last Scarecrow, a dark fantasy story. What are you working on? Come join me as I'm going to continue on the third draft, and I'll show you as I do a live reading and a live line edit. This is my process. I'll show the writing on screen. What are you doing? Feel free to come join along, hang out, share some feedback, or just kick back in the chat. By the way, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Kaufman, daily writing streamer, soon to be fantasy author and dragon enthusiast. And I'm on a mission to help you with the writing process. So let's get started. Let's get into it. After 740 consecutive streams and counting, we're doing it. All right, let's see what we see. All right, friends. And hey, what's up, Janine? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Janine, that's so cool. I'm really glad to hear that, actually. Like, hello, I feel better about my writing after talking to someone about it. I'm really happy to hear that. I know, Janine, I had also seen, or I also saw that you uploaded a story for the critique stream. Hopefully we should be able to get it on the next critique stream. I'm actually really looking forward to reading your stuff, by the way. We just had so many submissions. Such a crazy amount of submissions. But that's really cool that you were able to talk to somebody about it and that you're feeling a little bit better. I know I can speak personally, even as I'm starting to receive feedback about Scarecrow, that sometimes it's really hard to receive feedback sometimes. And I think trying to balance the feedback that works and the feedback that doesn't is really the key to making our stories as good as possible. So I totally understand that. All right, let's see, where was I? Book 2, we are in. All right, we're heading into the major story arc for book 2. Fun. Although I think this is actually a transitionary chapter. It's like, if I recall, I think this is actually a shorter chapter. Like, I'm used to being passed on regularly things, so that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's more just because there is a high submission volume more than anything. Let's see, you're just trying to understand why in the past you attracted so much toxicity and the wrong type of early readers. Well, it sounds like it sounds like hopefully you're figuring things out now, and it's slowly starting to improve for you, and you're finding the right types of readers and a feedback that isn't quite so toxic now. Hopefully it's turning out a little easier for you. So, and then no worries on being passed. Like, I'll definitely get to your story, Janine. It's just a matter of timing and how long, more than anything. I usually get to everyone's story. I was like, I don't think I've ever missed one before. All right, let's see, where am I at? So I want to say that last time I was, that's right, the last chapter was a little bit of an emotional, heartwarming chapter as Scarecrow, Pebble, and Crow solidified their connection with one another, and they are continuing on in their journey. All right. I'm pretty sure this is a shorter transitionary chapter, but we'll see what we see. Chapter 20. I should throw up the banner. Chapter 20. Into the Pit. Scarecrow shaded his eyes. The sky brightened, and the air became warmer as the forest thinned out. Worn dirt trails led them past oaks, junipers, and sporadic willows. The greenery of the dark forest became less menacing, the shadows of its depths trailing behind them like a bad dream. Even though the silence hanging about these lands remained, a vast canyon could be seen up ahead, bordering the edge of these woods. He lifted his coat pocket to ascertain whether Pebble was still asleep, and yet again she clung fiercely to a doll, the head poking out of her cloak pocket. Its face held a striking similarity, held a striking resemblance to the pixie. Immediately reminded of Cloth's demise, Scarecrow shuddered. He checked the top side of his pointed cross material hat. He checked the top side of his pointed cross material hat, of his pointed leather straw wheat sewn hat. Yes, Crow. He checked the top of his pointed leather straw hat. Yes, Crow still rested atop it, his feathery body wrapped around the brim snugly. The bird murmured that song in his sleep. Scarecrow was afraid of what types of repercussions there were from their time in the gardens, but the words comforted the crow, so he didn't say anything. He also felt the edge of the living sack strung over his back. Thankfully, Pebble had tied it to the collar of his coat, so he didn't have to carry it. Despite the ferocious set of teeth that chomped at anything, he had at least figured out how to open the living sack without getting his hand chewed off. Most of his belongings remained in there for now: the egg, the beanie, and Quilt. He still had no idea why Quilt remained lifeless, or how it was supposed to help them with the graveyard of the last, whatever that was. He still had no idea why Quilt remained lifeless, or how it was supposed to help them with the graveyard of the last, wherever that was. With each footstep, the ruby gemstone bounced around inside his coat pocket. Pebble had wanted to carry it, while Mr. Crow wanted to eat it. They had settled on Scarecrow keeping it close by so it didn't get lost. Oddly enough, it only landed in his care because the rabbit dropped it. Because the crazed rabbit dropped it. Where had that strange fellow hopped off to? Dr. Fox had mentioned a creature with color-changing eyes. He halted, shaded his eyes, and took in the grandiose view from atop the canyon's ledge. A vast wasteland spread out in all directions. Remnants of shelters and creators' beasts lay scattered throughout the desolate expanse, like the requiem of a forgotten dream. As far as the eye could see, one distant canyon, as far as he could see, one distant canyon carved paths deeper to the earth. Bright lights beckoned within, while an opposing canyon was shrouded in an eternal night. All right, we need to make an adjustment to that. He halted, shaded his eyes, and took in the grandiose view from atop the canyon's ledge. A vast wasteland spread out in all directions. Remnants of shelters and creators' beasts lay scattered throughout the desolate expanse like the requiem of a forgotten dream. As far as he could see, I don't actually think I need this last book, because I think I made changes to this. I think that's fine. He halted, shaded his eyes, and took in the grandiose view from atop the canyon's ledge. A vast wasteland spread out in all directions. Remnants of shelters and creators' beasts lay scattered throughout the desolate expanse, like the requiem of a forgotten dream. The sky was overcast, but neither sky was overcast, but it was difficult to determine. The sky was overcast. The sky was overcast with graying clouds, but it was difficult to determine the time of day. The time of day. The sky was overcast with graying clouds, but it was difficult to determine the time of day. It was difficult to determine the sun's rotation. He halted, shaded his eyes, and took in the grandiose view from atop the canyon's ledge. A vast wasteland spread out in all directions. Remnants of shelters and craters' beasts lay scattered throughout the desolate expanse, like the requiem of a forgotten dream. The sky was overcast with graying clouds, but it was difficult to determine the sun's rotation. He crossed his arms, basking in the sunlight. If only they could stay on the edge of this cliff indefinitely. He wouldn't have to worry about whatever evils lurked beyond. He wouldn't have to worry about whatever. He wouldn't have to worry about whatever evils lurked out there. Whatever, let's not go evil, whatever oddities lurked ahead. Maybe she was right, and he was, maybe Pebble was right, and he was merely a dumb scarecrow. They had come so far, but what had he really learned about himself? He sighed with exasperation. Fight the first demon. Those eyes of hellfire sent shivers down his spine. Find someone to fight the first demon. Looking at his hands, he could barely hold himself together half the time. Locate the graveyard of the last. Who knew what horrors lay between? Bring the quilt back to life. Help Mr. Crow. Help Pebble. Find a brazier. Find the scarecrows. Find himself. Throwing his arms up to the sky, he howled. I'm just a scarecrow! His voice echoed, carried off by the winds. Thanks for the update, I'm just a scarecrow, Pebble mumbled, yawning. She climbed up to his shoulder. She climbed out of his pocket. She climbed out of his pocket and up to his shoulder. You're right. I've accomplished so little and nearly died more times than I can count. His shoulders drooped. The pixie punched him on the shoulder in a playful gesture. Forget about the dumb demon. But who will stop it? But who will stop him then? Scarecrow asked, glancing down at her. Some other sparking animals can sacrifice their lives. Pebble chuckled nervously. Ever think that's why all the creatures in these lands are so lost in the first place? We're lost, Mr. Crow muttered from atop Scarecrow's hat, yawning. His feathered companion nibbled on his hat. So he reached up. His feathered companion nibbled on his hat. So he reached up and tapped the crow's beak. No. The crow flew into the air, scanning the canyon below. Scarecrow was thankful of Gore for that little trick. Scarecrow was thankful of Gore for that little trick. Pixies don't get lost, Birdbrain. All pixies are lost, Birdbrain, Mr. Crow retorted. Come down here and say that to my face. The crow flew down to eye level with the pixie. Brains are lost food. They maintained eye contact in a silent staring contest. Mr. Crow. The crow flew down to eye level with the pixie. Brains or lost food. They maintained eye contact in a silent staring contest. Before they could be separated, before Scarecrow could intervene, Pebble reached out and patted him once on the beak. Before Scarecrow could intervene, Pebble reached out and patted Mr. Crow on the beak. At least they weren't trying to kill each other. At least they weren't trying to kill each other now. At least they weren't trying to still kill each other. At least they weren't still trying to kill each other. The forest must have bonded them more than he realized. Their last adventures, their previous adventures must have bonded them more than he realized. Pebble pointed off in the distance. Enough jib-jab. Pebble pointed off in the distance. Enough jib-jab. See the dome that kind of resembles a well from here? See that dome? See the dome that kind of resembles a well from here? Kind of resembles an upside down well. An upside down. See the dome that kind of resembles an upside down well? Enough jib-jab. See the dome that kind of resembles an upside down well? Out there? Squinting? He followed her finger, tracing a path to the canyon with his eyes. Squinting, Scarecrow followed her finger, tracing a path to the canyon with his eyes. Barely. I thought that was a rock. Scarecrow followed her finger along the rocky paths. Beneath the dueling, gaping canyons, a large structure sat nestled. Beneath the dueling, gaping canyons. I'm like, do. Let's go far off into the wasteland. Far off in the wasteland. Far off in the wasteland, a large structure sat nestled, but far off in the wasteland, a large structure sat nestled, but from this vantage point, it looked like a speck. It looked like a speck. That's the Coliseum of the Last. Coliseum of the Lost, Mr. Crow cawed, continuously circling them. And that's where the closest brazier is, unless you want to travel down south to the Merc. He didn't even want to ask. Will this Wolf King be a... Psh, like I said, I eat wolves for breakfast. Mr. Crow paused before them. Younglings, do we fear the lost, or must we march unto death? Mr. Crow paused before them, his voice growing weathered and ancient. Younglings, do we fear the lost, or must we march unto death? Scarecrow and Pebble eyed each other, shrugging. Scarecrow and Pebble eyed each other, Pebble raised a fist, but Scarecrow responded. March unto death? To oblivion, Mr. Crow cawed fiercely at the sky. Cawed fiercely at the sky, squawking in approval. To oblivion, Mr. Crow cawed fiercely at the sky, squawking in approval. At least he's not singing anymore. Scarecrow shrugged. They watched as the crow resumed its flight circles. That's a long way down. How are we? A scream pierced the air, echoing from farther along the cliffside. Pebble swiped an arm to either side, vigorously shaking her head. Pebble swiped an arm to either side, vigorously shaking her head. Scarecrow took off at a sprint as Mr. Crow flew overhead. A scream for help pierced the air, echoing from farther along the cliffside. Hey, what's up now? A scream for help pierced the air, echoing from farther along the cliffside. Pebble swiped an arm to either side, vigorously shaking her head. Scarecrow took off at a sprint as Mr. Crow flew overhead, shouting, "Save the younglings!" How many times do I have to tell you not to befriend the locals? Pebble screamed, clinging to his shoulder. We're still alive, aren't we? Scarecrow asked as he hopped over a fallen branch poking off the ledge. Forest to his left and cliffside to his right made the sprint feel precarious. The cry for help echoed out again. The cry for help rang out again. But it was closer. But it was closer this time. I'm not saving, Pebble bounced off his shoulder as Scarecrow caught her in one hand. Up above, Mr. Crow flapped along, peering in all directions for the source of the distress call. Trust is the foundation of life, Scarecrow said, glancing down at Pebble. Where did those words come from? Where did that come from? Somewhere deep down he recognized those words, but they weren't his own. Trust is the foundation of life, Scarecrow said, glancing down at Pebble. Let's go, actually, Scarecrow said absentmindedly. Yeah, I think that's better. Trust is the foundation of life, Scarecrow said absentmindedly. Where did that come from? Somewhere deep down he recognized those words. They weren't his own. Boy in the red beanie? Another forgotten creator? Someone else? I swear to the spirit. I swear to spirits. I swear to spirit. If this is another trap, Pebble shouted as she held onto his fingers with one hand while shoving her other into the cloak pocket. What if you were in trouble and called out for help? Scarecrow screamed as he hopped over a boulder and ran through some trees. And plowed. As he hopped over a boulder and plowed through some trees. And plowed through some brush. Some bushes. Scarecrow screamed. What if you were in trouble and called out for help? Scarecrow screamed as he hopped over a boulder and plowed through some shoulder-high bushes. I'd leave me to perish. Her words were drowned out by another cry for help as they burst through a thicket of shoulder-high bushes. Oh yeah, all right. Clearly I already did that. I'd leave me to perish. Her words were drowned out by another cry for help as they burst through a thicket of shoulder-high bushes and stumbled onto a clearing overlooking the desolate canyon. Worn-down patches of blood-red crystals trailed from the forest's edge to a narrow path leading awkwardly down the cliffside. Worn-down patches of blood-red crystals trailed from the forest's edge beyond. Worn-down patches of blood-red crystals trailed from the forest's edge to a narrow path leading awkwardly down the cliffside. Scarecrow stopped in his tracks, eyeing the crystals warily. Help! He shook his head, locking onto a pair of leathery hands with long, lanky fingernails gripping the cliffside. The fingernails slipped as Scarecrow raced to the ledge and tossed Pebble onto his shoulder, with Mr. Crow not far behind. Help! Anyone please! Cried out a hoarse voice. Scarecrow latched onto the animal's hand before it slipped. Scarecrow latched onto the animal's hand before it slipped. He gripped his own forearm, fearful of losing it again. Looks like we got here just in time, friend. Scarecrow latched onto the animal's hand before it slipped. He gripped his own forearm, fearful of losing it again, as he leaned over the ledge. Looks like we got here just in time, friend. Mr. Crow hovered above, flapping back and forth, while Pebble held onto his shoulder and peered over, mumbling, "Don't trust monkeys," trailing off. See, if we hadn't come, this poor animal could have died, he groaned, trying in vain to pull the animal up. Scarecrow got to his knees, attempting to use his body as a weight. The pronounced facial features of the hapless animal screamed primate. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red materials draped around its waist. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red materials tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic, sinewy tail of red, white, and gold. So Scarecrow got to his knees, attempting to use his body as a weight. The pronounced facial features of the hapless animal screamed primate. Okay, let's move this up slightly. The animal gripped his arm, gripped his hand tightly as a Scarecrow got a good look. As Scarecrow got a good look at it. Pronounced facial features screamed primate. The pronounced facial features of the hapless animal screamed primate. All right, so let's do this. Let's see if this is a clear enough description. Hey, welcome. LeMay, welcome. Serenity Queen, what is up, my friend? Hope the writing vibe is treating you well. You guys working on anything fun today? Hopefully you guys getting some good progress with your writing vibes. Let's see, I'm always having fun with Scarecrow, that's for sure. Let's go. The pronounced facial features of the it was adorned with golden red. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals. I mean, do I really give them... Okay. Let's see. The animal gripped his hand tightly. A scarecrow got a good look at it. The pronounced facial features of the hapless animal screamed primate. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals, tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic, sinewy tail of red, white, and gold. I don't think I've given the primates armor. I'm wondering. I'm asking myself if I should give the primates armor, or if I should keep them with their cloth, keep them with more cloth-like materials. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals. A white sash tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic... Well, I actually kind of like that. So if a golden red metal, so then I'm painting it with armor. It does have a sash. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals, a white sash tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic, sinewy tail of red, white, and gold. I actually kind of like that color scheme. Hey, welcome, Lon. And books, welcome. Hello, I'm typing a book from 1982 into my laptop. Wow, looks like you're really bringing it to the present. That's awesome, books. It's awesome that you decided to come back to the project and you're translating or transferring it. I did that with one of my really early projects when I wrote it throughout middle school and high school. And then once I was done with the draft, it filled like 10 notebooks worth. And then I had to transfer it into my onto a computer. It's definitely quite a process. Good luck with it. I feel like it's really nice being able to kind of see it transition from one medium into the next. Lonric, what's the purpose of the primates? Yeah, so the primates, who I think I'm going to... Right now, he sees them as a primate. They're called the keys, and they're basically kind of like the henchmen. Yeah, I mean, I would say the keys are kind of like the henchman type character of this next story arc. Yeah, I would say that's the best description. The keys are like the henchmen. I don't think I gave them armor originally. I think I just had them wearing like cloth-like materials, but as I'm thinking about it, I think metals I think they're the first. I think having them with metals, I think, is a stronger indication that they're of their difference. So I'm actually think I'm liking that. The animal gripped his hand tightly. A scarecrow got a good look at it. The pronounced facial features of the hapless animal screamed primate. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red metals, a white sash tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic, sinewy tail of red, white, and gold. The pronounced facial features and short black fur of the hapless animal screamed primate. Its large, bulky frame was adorned with golden red materials, a white sash tightly draped around its waist, and a majestic, sinewy tail of red, white, and gold. So would the person hiring them fork out the cash for armor or not? Well, there's no currency. So there's no currency in this world because it's a post-apocalyptic world. It's more like a tribe, I would say. I would say more less like a society and think more like maybe like Mad Max type of deal. I would say what they have is what they've scavenged. I'm asking myself if they would have scavenged metals in this part of the world at this wasteland. I think so because I think the area that they hold would have an armory. So I think that actually would make sense because I set up the weapons that they use coming up. I don't really set up armor. I think it would make sense that they would have armor though. But that's a good question though, Con. Thanks for that. Mr. Crow hovered above, flapping back and forth, while Pebble held onto his shoulder and peered over, mumbling, "Don't trust monkeys," trailing off. That's an add-on. See, if we hadn't come, this poor animal could have died, Scarecrow groaned, trying in vain to pull the animal up, trying in vain to pull the primate up. Scarecrow got to his knees. He got to his knees, attempting to use his body as a weight. Actually, let's go. Scarecrow got to his knees, attempting to use his body as a weight. The animal stopped screeching as it reached up to grab Scarecrow's chest. The primate's crystal wide-eyed gaze locked on him with a delighted smirk, becoming a sly grin. The primate's Pebble's eyes widened. The primates. Okay, that I think I can use this. The keys. That's what they're called. The keys. Would that be capital? Primate. Keys. I forgot. Pebble's eyes widened. Scarecrow, let go. Who's Commandi? That's kind of cool. I just like Googled it. It looks like it's a series of comics. Kind of seems like Commandi kind of seems like a Highlander type character. Primate. Keys. I forgot. Pebble's eyes widened. Scarecrow, let go. He felt something tear along his back as those crystal white eyes leaned in, dark. Alright, so let's have to make sure I have this action. Scarecrow got to his knees, attempting to use his body as a weight to pull up. To pull. Scarecrow got to his knees, attempting to use. Scarecrow got to his knees, using his body as a weight. Nope, attempting to use his body as a weight to pull up. The animal stopped screeching as it reached up to grab Scarecrow's chest. The animal stopped screeching as it reached up with one hand to grab Scarecrow's chest. The primate's crystal wide-eyed gaze locked on him with a delighted smirk, becoming a sly grin. Primate, keys. I forgot. Pebble's eyes widened. Scarecrow, let go. He felt something tear along his back as those crystal wide eyes leaned in, dark and forebodingly. Thanks, bub. In a low, vicious, shoot, I forgot what the sons of primates make again. With a low, vicious grunt. He whispered. Let's see. He felt something tear along his back as those crystal wide eyes leaned in, dark and forebodingly. With a low, vicious grunt, the primate whispered, "Thanks, bub. I could use a hand or two." Let's make that M dash. Could use a hand or two. Giggling with a high-pitched maniacal hoot, the primate yanked Scarecrow over the cliffside. Scarecrow tumbled giggling with a high-pitched maniacal hoot, the primate yanked Scarecrow over the cliffside. Scarecrow tumbled through the sky. Scarecrow tumbled through the air, losing all sense of space and direction. Scarecrow tumbled through the sky, losing all sense of space and direction. Air rushed past him. Fumbling blindly while calling out for his friends, he plummeted, face first. He plummeted down. The ground floor of the canyon far below was sure to end his life. How naive he felt for trying to help. Maybe he was just a dumb. The fall came to a jarring halt as he bounced into a net. A bulky, furry arm reached out, gripping him by the waist. World spinning, Scarecrow tried to regain his bearings as he was pulled into a hole within the shadows of the cliffside. Tossed in the air again, he spun around. The sunlight streamed through the hole in the rock wall behind him. Let me make sure it's clear. So the fall came to a jarring halt as he bounced into a net. A bulky, furry arm reached out, gripping him by the waist. World spinning, Scarecrow tried to regain his bearings as he was pulled into a hole within the shadows of the cliffside. Tossed into the air again, he spun around. The sunlight streamed through the hole in the rock wall behind him. He flailed blindly before being tossed into the air of a very dimly lit cavern. Another set of furry, sinewy hands gripped him as a similar looking primate sniffed him head to toe. Before tossing him aside. Expecting to be caught, Scarecrow crashed to the ground. Expecting to be caught. We don't need this. Scarecrow crashed to the ground, rolling into a wall, groaning. I think that action is clear. Okay, so I forgot in the last version of the draft, I adjusted the way this chapter ended, which is good. I actually like what I'm doing here. World spinning, Scarecrow tried to regain his bearings as he was pulled into a hole within the shadows of the cliffside. Tossed into the air again, he spun around. The sunlight streamed through the hole in the rock wall behind him as he was pulled into the darkness. World spinning, Scarecrow tried to regain his bearings as he was pulled into a hole within the shadows of the cliffside. Tossed in the air again, he spun around. The sunlight streamed through the hole in the rock wall behind him as he was pulled into the darkness. And I used pulled again. The sunlight streamed through the hole in the rock wall behind him. He flailed blindly before being tossed in the air of a very dimly lit cavern. Another said of furry. He flailed blindly before being tossed in the air of a very dimly lit cavern. Another set of furry, sinewy hands gripped him as a similar-looking primate sniffed him head to toe before tossing him aside. Scarecrow crashed to the ground, rolling into a wall, groaning. The world spun around. His head ached. He felt his hat resting firmly on his head, relieved. His eyes adjusted to the natural soft blue lighting pouring from between clusters of rocks in the walls. It was more rock lights. How long had it been since his excursion in the caverns of the creators? I don't think we need that. He appeared to be in some type of pit, a rather large one, as it stretched out along the length of the cavern with ledges too high to climb that circled its length. A shadowed primate hung from the ceiling, hooting at another one sitting upon a far-off ledge. So I keep using primate. I need to have Pebble clarify. Actually, I think we can. So I'm asking myself, no, I think I'll wait to refer to them by keys until I get more of a formal description. So we'll stick with primate for now, since Scarecrow doesn't understand what they are quite yet beyond them being primates. He appeared to be in some type of pit, a rather large one. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it looks like a cool series. Lauren, it looks like a cool series. I was looking at the Commandi, the series online. It looks like a really cool comic series. Yeah, I mean, Scarecrow does kind of have that, like, end of the world, like, kind of apocalyptic vibe. I mean, they're basically in a time of the world where all of the species are kind of, like, near the end of extinction. And he is the last Scarecrow, so... He appeared to be in some type of pit, a rather large one, as it stretched out along the length of the cavern, with ledges too high to climb that circled its length. A shadowed primate hung from the ceiling, hooting at another one sitting upon a far-off ledge. The center of the pit was dimly lit, while the edges were shadowed, bits of movement stirring occasionally here and there. He wasn't alone. Pushing himself off the ground, Scarecrow called out, "Pebble? Mr. Crow? Either of you..." He gulped. He whispered, gulping. There? He wasn't alone. Pushing himself off the ground, Scarecrow called out, "Pebble, Mr. Crow, either of you..." He whispered, gulping. No, because we already have a speech tag there, so we don't need that. He wasn't alone. Pushing himself off the ground, Scarecrow called out, "Pebble? Mr. Crow, either of you..." He gulped. There? While his voice echoed out, it was met with a hoot from atop the ledge, a nearby hiss from the shadows, and a growl off in the distance. He rubbed his eyes, trying to make out who or what was nearby. Scarecrow. Caught by surprise, he fell again, knocking his chin on the ground. Rubbing his face while looking up, a furry paw came into view as it lifted him off the ground in one swoop and set him on his feet. He blinked, making out the animal's golden brown. Making out a familiar golden brown mane, and he blinked, making out a familiar golden brown coat. No, that's golden brown mane and white streaked. Golden brown mane and white streaked furry face. He blinked, making out a familiar golden brown mane and a white streaked furry face. Gore! Ah, Scarecrow, my good friend, my good straw friend, still as spookish as ever. The grizzly bear grabbed him by the shoulder, accompanied by a welcome nod. Ah, Scarecrow. Ah, Scarecrow, still at Scarecrow, my straw. Let's go here. Ah, Scarecrow, straw friend, still as spookish as ever. The grizzly bear grabbed him by the shoulder, accompanied by a welcome nod. What are you doing here? Where are we? Gore chuckled, glancing around. Alas, I was caught in the same trap as you, it appears. So moved by your parting words, I thought to help out another. He growled at the ceiling. And here we are. Should have taken my own advice, he mumbled. But his demeanor changed, becoming angry. Gore chuckled, glancing around. Alas, I was caught in the same trap as you, appears. Yeah, I think I can agree. He growled at the ceiling. And here we are. Should have taken my own advice. Yeah, I was like, I don't think that is working. But his demeanor changed, becoming angry. All right. Gore chuckled, glancing around. Alas, I was caught in the same trap as you, it appears. So moved by your parting words, I thought to help out another. He growled at the ceiling. And here we are. Should have taken my own advice. But his demeanor changed, anger flaring. If they damage my maps, he roared at the nearest ledge. This grizzly shall reserve no fury. With a raised paw to the earth, he snarled at them, his threat bouncing off the cavern walls. Belongings. Scarecrow felt his back, but the living sack was gone. What if it had fallen? What if they had taken it? How would they traverse the graveyard of the last without the quilt? Scarecrow tapped the grizzly on his shoulder. What? Gore roared in his face, paused, and brought his hands together, taking a deep, calming breath. Fear not, Scarecrow. The grizzly's anger is not directed at you. Fear not, Scarecrow. This grizzly's anger is not directed at you. He closed his eyes, inhaling and exhaling. Have you seen Pebble or Mr. Crow? The crow is most likely all right, but the pixie on the other hand. The crow is most likely all right, but the pixie on the other hand. Did she fall off the cliff too? Maybe Pebble had fallen into the same trap. He gulped at the thought of the poor little pixie falling to her death. Why couldn't she fly? All he could imagine were her final words. Don't say I didn't warn ya. Warn ya, dumb. Worry not, Scarecrow, Gore said between inhales. The two with wings are the last ones I'd worry about. Scarecrow gulped. No wings in here, hissed a somber voice. Sliding from out of the shadows, a green and black striped snake rose up on its tail to speak with them at eye level. Oh no. King? Gore asked, turning to them. You're far from home, Grizzly, the snake hissed. Likewise, Cobra. Gore leaned toward Scarecrow, hissing, Don't let him talk, he'll bore you to death. Gore snorted with a deep-seated chuckle. Better talk than a bite and go, am I right? The two of them burst into laughter. Scarecrow crooked his head, lost. King shook off the laughter. Eyes slanted as he used his tail to push himself higher into the air, inspecting Scarecrow from all angles. King shook off the laughter, eyes slanted as he used his tail to push himself higher into the air, inspecting Scarecrow from all angles. This creature going to help us blast out. Scarecrow, this is King, last of the Cobras. Like yourself, we were recently traveling companions before at some point. Let's go before at some point. He trailed off. The snake eyed him warily, but remained silent. The snake eyed Gore warily, but remained silent. And King, old friend, this is Scarecrow. Gore started with a deep inhale. Another traveler, aside, whom fate appears to need this grizzly a debt repaid. Whom fate appears to need a grizzly's debt repaid. He winked. What's a scarecrow? King rolled his head in a bout of confusion. I'm me. Scarecrow said, tapping his chest. Echoes of Cloth's in question reverberating in his mind. Scarecrow said, actually, let's fix that. He tapped his chest. Echoes of Cloth's same question reverberating in his mind. Or was it from someone else? So you're a scarecrow, and your name is Scarecrow? King hissed, aside. You really know how to pick him, Grizzly. Scarecrow put out a hand. I'm sorry, but I need to go find my friends. Rubbing his chin, Gore leaned down. Any knowledge of this place, King? The cobra shook his head, eyes rolling. Those baboons overtook me while I slept. We'll see who strikes last. Yeah, I'll have to see how I feel about King's. I'll have to see how I feel about King's dialogue. I'm very much enhancing the S's to do a whole snake thing. I'll have to see how I feel about that. Gore sighed and nodded. Looks like we're stuck for now. Partners of old and new. Looks like we're stuck for now. Partners? He held out one paw to Scarecrow and the other to King. The snake slapped his tail down as Scarecrow nodded with a worried look before tapping Gore's hand. The snake slapped his tail down as Scarecrow nodded with a worried look before tapping Gore's hand. The grizzly placed a hand on Scarecrow's shoulder. Go search. We'll meet back here. He nodded towards the closest patch of rock lights in the wall to mark their spot. Scarecrow brushed past the two of them, the slimy tail of the snake wrapped around his wrist. Don't talk. Observe. Some of those animals will kill you, whatever you are. King let go, turning toward Gore and asked, Operation Slingshot. Scarecrow nodded, more so to himself, as he turned and strode across. And Gorin asked, I use operation by another set of animals. Maybe. Scarecrow nodded, more so to himself, as he turned and strode across the dimly lit cavern. Eyes adjusting, he could make out shapes huddled together, or alone, along the edges of the pit. Eyes adjusting, he could make out shapes huddled together, or alone, along the edges of the pit. A yellow-eyed hyena snarled at him in passing. He jumped back, apologizing. A yellow-eyed hyena snarled at him in passing. He jumped back, apologizing, and hurried away. Another group of smaller animals, some with tails and others without, huddled together in the shadows. I think I would have used grouped. Another group of smaller animals, some with tails and others without, bunched together in the shadows. One of them turned as a rock's light slid across its features. One of them turned as a rock light lit up their face. The thin brown fur stood up as a weasel's wide eyes squinted at him, and for a moment, Scarecrow thought he might ask for help until a rock hit him in the face. Scarecrow. It's funny. The thin brown fur stood up as a weasel's white eyes squinted at him, and for a moment, Scarecrow thought he might ask for help until a rock hit him in the face. Squeaks and warbles chittered from the darkness. Rubbing his head and leaning in, there didn't appear to be any shapes with wings, so he kept moving. A booming hoot from the primate above nearly sent him stumbling to the ground. Nearly sent Scarecrow stumbling to the ground. Maybe it was best to avoid the center of the pit for now. He noticed giant holes in the ceiling. That must have been one of the holes he was tossed through. He noticed giant holes in the ceiling. That must have been one of the pathways he was tossed through. After having dealt with the gardens and the cannibals, he shuddered at whatever intentions these primates might have for them. He had to hurry up and find. A thumping sound echoed from above as a body fell through one of the holes and into the arm of the primate hanging from the ceiling. With a sniff, the animal was tossed from the pit as it rolled into a nearby wall. Scarecrow rushed over to help the unconscious animal, stopping as he recalled the snake's caution. He slowed his pace, cautiously. He slowed his pace. Scarecrow rushed over to help the unconscious animal, stopping as he recalled the snake's warning. He slowed his pace, cautiously approaching the animal, who lay face first on the ground, mostly obscured. Mostly obscured by shadows. The tip of a bushy, vermilion ringed tail swayed through the glow of a rock light. Eyes wide, Scarecrow bent down, pressing a hand against the animal's shoulder. Dr. Fox? The fox, still unconscious, didn't stir. Scarecrow rolled him onto his back, surprised to see the fox without the silhouette of a mask on his face. Part of him was thankful for the shadows obscuring the disfigured face. Scarecrow rolled him onto his back, surprised to see the fox without the silhouette of a mask. Part of him was thankful for the shadows obscuring the disfigured face. He gulped, even though he knew that wasn't the nicest thing. To think. Judge the horrors of your own face, Scarecrow. The eyes opened, yellow pupils blinking awake. Scarecrow fell back, locked in place, staring into the fox's eyes. Forever a scared crow. Dr. Fox's ambient and vibrant chuckle was low, but resolute as he rolled over swiftly. Crouching low, tail high, his face was masked once more. The tension was apparent as they watched one another without breaking eye contact. Scarecrow stood up, arms crossed, trying to suppress his anger as one word escaped his lips. Cloth. The fox's tail lolled back and forth with a methodic rhythm, causing Scarecrow to yawn. Low and with musical precision, his whispered response. How would Clothy have met his fate had you never showed, I wonder? How would Clothy have met his fate had you never fallen into the pixie's trap, I wonder? Scarecrow gulped, not really sure how to respond. Taking a step back, he shook his head. I need to find dead. He froze. Are the pixie's fears. Clasping his hands in frustration, Scarecrow approached the fox again. Scarecrow approached Dr. Fox again. Stop that! The fox rose as a string, shimmering against the shadow, whipped through the air around them. I used whip twice. The fox rose as a string, shimmering against the shadow, swung through the air around them, and whipped a crack in the wall. Stop helping Scarecrow escape? Why? Scarecrow remained stiff, untrusting. Of all the creatures he had met since awakening, this fox was the most questionable. For a debt soon owed. Scarecrow grabbed his own head, unfurling his fingers before nodding. Fine, let me get the others. Dr. Fox rose to full height, spinning around but once. One escape per debt owed, Scarecrow. Now or never. Scarecrow looked across the pit. On the other side, Gore was flinging the snake into the air, and he couldn't leave without knowing for certain. On the other side, Gore was flinging the snake into the air, was flinging King into the air. And he couldn't leave without knowing for certain whether his friends were here or not. Shaking his head, he turned back around, but the fox was mere inches from his face. One question, any answer. Ask now. Scarecrow sucked in a deep breath, eyeing the outline of the fox mask, surprised by such an offer. What debt was going to be owed, and how did the fox speak like he knew what was going to happen? So many things he didn't understand. I wonder... What debt was going to be owed, and how did the fox speak like he knew what was going to happen? So many things he didn't understand. Time is essence. All right, so I think I need to adjust. So I don't think I really said, I mean, it's clear that the fox is talking to him. No, I mean, I think I did set up that Dr. Fox can speak telepathically. I'm gonna have to, that's a note that I'm gonna have to make to myself. Draft 4 notes. This is what, chapter 20, I want to say? Yes. Chapter, what page? I'm on 306. What was the other Dr. Fox chapter? Let's see. So this is 20 and 16. So 20 and 6. So chapter 16. I just made a note of it because I'm not going to fix it right now. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I think it's clear that Dr. Fox can speak telepathically, but I forgot if I set it up correctly or not. Scarecrow looked across the pit. On the other side, Gore was flinging King into the air. He couldn't leave without knowing for certain whether his friends were here. Shaking his head, he turned back around, but the fox was mere inches from his face. One question, any answer. Ask now. One question. One answer. Ask now. Scarecrow sucked in a deep breath, eyeing the outline of the fox mask, surprised by such an offer. What debt was going to be owed, and how did the fox speak like he knew what was going to happen? So many things he didn't understand. Time is essence. He glanced back at the primate hanging from the ceiling, who hooted toward the other side of the pit as another shape fell through a hole. As another animal fell through a hole. Dr. Fox's yellow-eyed gaze through the slits of the mask transfixed him. So much he didn't understand. So many questions. Only one burned in his mind, but he was afraid. He gulped. Only one burned in his mind, but he was afraid. He gulped as the other questions. He gulped as all of the possible questions swirled about. Ask. Who? He stuttered. What? He gulped. Quilt. How do I help Quilt? Silence. The fox chuckled. The fox chuckled. Question asked, but not the desire. Question asked, but not the desire. But not the desired. The max rubbed against his shoulder like a lost animal. Fault or mischief? Before Scarecrow could back away, the fox grabbed him by the shoulders as his mask shifted and lips pressed against his ear, whispering, Find the nest. Tell those. He gurgled with disdain. Hags. Dr. Fox backed away and pressed himself near the wall with a dramatic bow, tail swishing wildly. The string of visible light source fending off the shadows, pressed against a crack in the rock wall. The fox, whose silhouette was barely visible to begin with, slipped in the crack as if his body had changed dimensions. Dr. Fox backed away and pressed himself near the wall with a dramatic bow, tail swishing wildly. The string, a visible light source fending off the shadows, pressed against a crack in the rock wall. The fox, whose silhouette was barely visible to begin with, slipped into the crack as if his body as if the fox, whose silhouette was barely visible to begin with, slipped into the crack, as if his body had ever been corporeal. And like that, he was gone. Scarecrow felt the wall, wrapping his eyes in disbelief. Tell them what the fox say. The vibrant, husky laughter bounced around in his mind. Scarecrow looked around, feeling the weight of a revelation he couldn't grasp. Yet he stood alone, the primate hanging from the ceiling eyed him with a crazed hoot. He backed away against the shadowed wall until his Scarecrow... The primate hanging from the ceiling eyed him with a crazed hoot. He backed away against the shadowed wall until his captor turned away, swinging around the ceiling in circles. What the fox say, he murmured, as he added another location to the list. And who or what are hags? Maybe Mr. Crow would know. Maybe Mr. Crow would know. He had to find the others. He had to find them. He had to find the others. He had to find them. Scarecrow jogged further along the wall, nearly on the opposite side of the pit. Stopping nearby a small body and thinking it might be the pixie, he leaned in, but was met with an angry snort. White cracked pupils opened as an animal rose twice, no 3 times, no 4 times his size, towering over him with a head attached to the longest, faded, yellow-spotted neck he could imagine. The animal shot forward, chomping its teeth and forcing him to stumble back. Scarecrow backstepped away until the animal retracted back into its shadowed nook from whence it came. He turned around. Scarecrow turned around while tripping over another animal blocking his path. Falling to the ground, he brushed himself off, looking back about to apologize. A white and pink scarred paw grabbed his chest, lifting him into the air as the animal stood. Golden eyes flared with rage. I will rip you limb from limb, trash. We have the Brief Rabbit intro. Yep. Golden eyes flared with rage. I will rip you limb from limb, trash. As the eye color shifted to those of a deep ruby red, Scarecrow blurted out, "Cotton Ball." I think I have him. The rabbit froze, ears popping up. I can't believe. The rabbit froze, ears popping up. Who dares? The rabbit froze, ears popping up. Who dares utter that filthy name? I can't believe. Scarecrow felt himself trying to reach into his coat pocket. I have your gemstone. I have your ruby gemstone. You stole my gemstone, demon? The rabbit roared, chucking Scarecrow to the ground. Despite his ringing head, Scarecrow felt in his pocket, searching quickly. No, you dropped it. The rabbit backed away into the shadows, whispering, Cotton Ball. Right. He couldn't follow. The rabbit's silhouette flipped in midair. Demon. A white scarred paw pointed at Scarecrow as he closed the gap once more. Scarecrow searched each pocket wildly, but the gemstone, like the rest of his belongings, was gone. Missing or stolen? No, I had it, but it must have dropped. The rabbit hunched low, eyes shifting golden green, but it must have dropped when I dropped in the fall. The rabbit hunched low, eyes shifting gold, green, yellow, red. Think you can hunt me? The rabbit straightened out. Liar. We are the hunter. The rabbit crouched. Cotton Ball hunched low, eyes shifting gold, green, yellow, then red. Think you can hunt me? The rabbit straightened out. Liar. We are the hunter. The rabbit crouched and pounced at Scarecrow, whispering, Through the forest the demon hunts. This time, Scarecrow shoved the rabbit away, realizing for the first time just how powerless he felt. How had he lost everything again? The rabbit snarled, stepping towards him, aggression in his eyes. Scarecrow backed away. I promise, I'm not lying. Liars lie, demons die, the rabbit snarled. Loud hoots whistled from all sides of the cavern. The two of them froze as many eyes peered down at them from atop the ledges. Hoots of all tones bounced around the cavern, bounced around the cave walls. Loud hoots whistled from all sides of the cavern. The two of them froze as many eyes peered down at them from above, from ledges above, from atop the ledges, from atop the ledges. Hoots of all tones bounced around the space, bounced around the space. Silhouettes of the other captives rose from within the pit. Even the rabbit had stopped, turning his attention towards those above. A deep, hoarse voice shouted, "Animals, creatures, beasts, you are recruited. Strength, survive." A single chest-fisted clap rang through the cavern. A single chest-fisted clap rang through the cavern, followed by the resounding clap of other primates. Something felt hot at his feet. Scarecrow looked down. The ground was glowing. He brushed dirt aside, realizing a net was strewn across the floor of the pit. Looking up and searching for the others proved useless. He took one step as a pain like a jolt of 1,000 lightning bolts coursed up his legs. Before his scream could join the collection of other captives, he collapsed to the floor, the world fading away. Yeah, that's actually a good ending. That's a good ending, but I'm really happy how that turned out. Yeah, that is a good ending beat. I think I like what I've done with the rabbit. It's very brief, and it's not meant to do too much. Yeah, I think I'm happy with how the cotton ball bit came out, actually. Yeah, so this is good. Okay, so I actually completely forgot that I combined that the pit scene was part of that chapter. I'm actually really glad at how that came out. That was a really good chapter. We started, and I feel like a lot happened. We started the chapter with Scarecrow and his friends traveling out of the forest, and then it transitioned to Scarecrow, of course, getting captured. Nothing new. Oh man, I just crack up so much. I love it so much. I'm like, of course, Scarecrow thinks he's going to like save the world, and all he does is gets captured every single time. By every single tribe he comes across, he tries to help them, and then he gets captured. Oh, Scarecrow. Yep, into the pit. Yeah, so I'm actually really happy at how 20 came out. Yeah, and this is chapter 20. This is the start of the Colosseum of the last arc. So really, really cool, as this is a 7-chapter. I want to say it's a 7-chapter arc that will lead us to the midpoint. How much was? Let's see, into the pit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 6, 7, 8. Yep. So it's a 9-chapter arc that will lead us to the midpoint. It's so cool because it's like the first half. Like, I'm just once again, as I've gone through this part of the book, I'm just like so happy at how this part of the book came out. The first half of the act introduces us to some really strange tribal dynamics. And then the second half of the chapter really introduces us to a different type of tribal dynamic. And it kind of opens up the world a little bit by introducing us to more of its inhabitants. But it's so cool. I love it. And kind of seeing some of these early references, I'm like, yes. So very, very cool. I'm glad I was able to get that accomplished. Hopefully you're able to make some progress on your writing as well. So that's all that I got for you today, my writers. I'll be back tomorrow. So Mondays is our weekly community update. 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Come join us as we share what's going on with the writing community. I'll talk about some right now stuff, and we'll be talking about a really cool upcoming author tube event that another author tube in the community is hosting to help you with growing your writing brand. So come back and join us. I'll be back tomorrow. If you enjoyed the stream, tap that like button. Help us show the algorithm that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends, unfortunately that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write.
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now.